Wedding planners of Reddit, what is your best the bride must never know story? At my best friend's wedding we were a little delayed getting introduced to the reception. She thinks it's because they were letting people get seated. Really her father-in-law was running around setting up their cupcakes because the catering company had to fire an employee on the spot for being high. IDK what drug? She still has no idea 2 years later. Bride here. At my wedding my maid of honor was responsible for holding my husband's wedding ring until we exchanged them in the ceremony, and the best man was holding mine. I was super distracted goofing around with my dad getting ready to walk up the aisle and didn't think to double check with Mo before we got the show on the road. During the ceremony I'm definitely paying all my attention on my husband and my grandfather, who was officiating the ceremony, and not on my Mo or bridesmaids, so I didn't even notice when my husband's aunt popped up behind me and slipped the ring to my Mo. Mo played it off really well, and I had no clue she'd forgotten the ring in the room we used to get dressed and ready. Nobody said a word, and would have gotten away with me never knowing had my aunt not been recording the ceremony for me. I noticed about a week later when my aunt posted the video to Facebook that his aunt popped up on the pulpit with everyone. I asked my sister, a bridesmaid, what happened and she lost it laughing. My poor Mo felt horrible she'd forgotten about the ring, but my husband's aunt saved the day when my sister and Mo managed to wordlessly communicate what had happened and she found the ring and got it to us in like 20 seconds. I am a wedding planner who just got married this month. I messed up the date on my own wedding day. Yup, I do this for a living and I missed that the date was wrong on months of emails. Turns out the bakery had made it a day early, complete with the gold-painted pineapple topper, and had it at the venue before our post-ceremony photos were done. Had I been the coordinator and not this bride, 1, this never would have happened, and 2, no way the bride ever would have found out. Groom here and my wife definitely knows, but our friend who was supposed to do the legal side, sign our marriage certificate, we had a separate pastor for the ceremony, RSVP'd for him and a girlfriend, but then stopped responding to messages as the wedding got close and didn't show. Yes, he is still alive. Luckily my groomsman happened to also be ordained and happily signed our marriage certificate. Also, the cake people decided the best way to hold together our 3-tier cake was through using bendy straws instead of dowel rods as supports in the cake. Bendy straws. This wasn't even a small podunk operation. It was a local chain company that many people have used and recommended. The cake slid off and they had already left the venue, so our wonderful catering company and venue staff did their best to put it back together and used extra roses to hide the damage. After the wedding my wife called the cake company to complain and the manager was snarky, saying that using bendy straws was normal and part of their policy, and said the best he could do was offer like $50 and a free anniversary cake, which may have been fine but due to his attitude was not. Finally he huffily snarked out, "Ma'am, what do you want me to do?" to my wife over the phone. So since his attitude didn't change we put in a request to talk to the owner. The next day the owner calls and lo and behold is very gracious, states that in fact, no, it isn't their policy to use bendy straws, and offers a full refund as well as reassures us that the issue will be dealt with that huffy franchise manager. Not a wedding planner. But the wedding planner for one of my good friends' wedding went above and beyond. Friend's mother was a horrid woman. Very self-centered. Narcissistic. The way you feel about Umbridge the first minute into the HP movie. You feel that way in 2 seconds meeting her. She was banned by friend and uninvited a week before the big day. The final straw being her mother was going to wear a wedding dress, not a white dress, which is bad enough. No actual wedding gown, to her daughter's wedding. It was a hell of a week doing everything we could all do to help friend and her soon-to-be husband relax, enjoy and get that witch out of their heads. Day of wedding. It's beautiful. In a beautiful church. Everything is fantastic. The wedding planner, he was like some magical fairy godfather. Just guiding and leading and managing one transition into another flawlessly. If there were hiccups, nobody knew or saw it. He even had set up professional child care in the church's children room for those there with young ones. The vows ceremony flowed into the reception room. Then the horrid beast showed up. Stomping up the hallway, wearing that dress looking like tore-up Colfax hooker. She didn't even make it to the reception hallway. The wedding planner jumped her like a Secret Service agent. I don't even know where he came out of. One moment, crazy lady, next wedding planner silent ninja strike. Hand over her mouth and dragged her out so fast that us maids and the groomsmen didn't have time to even gasp. Bride and groom never found out she got in. They think she was arrested in the church's lot. She probably shouldn't have done what she did, having out-of-state warrants out for her, and they didn't find out even that much till after their month-long honeymoon, which was probably due to even the rest of friends' family wanting nothing to do with her mother. All of us have continued to recommend him or use his business for own events back in CO since then. He looked batshit crazy in the eyes, took it on like a badass, and then went about the rest of the day like a pro-Disney cast member. I was the bride, when the wedding planner dropped the top 2 tiers of my cake and didn't say anything to me, then had the catering department fix it by putting flowers all over the first tier to hide what happened. My sister-in-law thought I knew because after they dropped it, one of them came upstairs where I was getting ready, and when they went back down she said, "It's okay, we have to try to fix it." No one ever came to me. The only reason I knew is that after the wedding she told me they did a nice job of fixing it even though she didn't think it could be fixed. I knew there was something different with the cake, but it looked nice, so I was okay with that. After hearing it, I was heated, but all in all, I couldn't even tell. Nice one, planner. Obligatory not a wedding planner story. When my wife and I got married, we chose a deep winter date. We had a friend make up all the buttonholes and bouquets and pick them up the day before the wedding as we were getting married in another town. My wife's bouquet was quite large and was in a bucket of water to keep it fresh. We stayed, in separate rooms obviously, in a small hotel in the town, and I left the flowers in the car to ensure they stayed as fresh as possible. Unbeknownst to me at the time, that night was going to be the coldest of the year and plummet to about 12 degrees. The following morning, my wife had got up early with her party and already gone to the venue to get ready. I got up and got ready, then headed out to the car to drop the necessary flowers off with my father-in-law at the wedding venue before heading to the church. Got to the car, the bucket with her bouquet had frozen solid. I headed up to the venue and got her dad out. Like a champ, he took over and got the wedding planner to find every hair dryer in the place to melt the ice so the bouquet could be used. I left him to it, and when my wife turned up at the church she looked amazing, and was carrying an ice-free, wonderful bouquet. She had no idea there was any problems at all. Not the wedding planner, but maid of honor. The bride's grandfather wasn't there for the ceremony. He got lost after insisting he knew the way and didn't need to follow anyone from the hotel, and didn't make it in time. He was there for the reception however, and the bride didn't notice his absence in the audience during the vows. Was a bridesmaid who was in charge of save the dates, invitations, and anything else involving paper. I designed and handmade their wedding invitations using home devices and DIY hacks. It was pretty complicated to do so on a home printer. I was doing layered printing, so I was very focused on getting the alignments right. About 60 invitation in, I realized that I spelled her name wrong, twice. I have known her for over a decade, and have witnessed many typos made by strangers. I never thought I'd be one of them. I started over and ate the cost of the mistake, fortunately, pretty marginal. At my step-sister's wedding, her grandfather had a mild stroke right in the middle of the vows. He's pretty loud and a touch belligerent anyways, but it became much more obvious something wasn't right as we were having the formal photos done. With barely a word, the wedding planner booked a taxi for my parents to take him to the hospital nearby to have him checked over quickly, promising to keep an eye on us kids. It came to light that it was a little more serious than they'd thought, and that they wanted him to be admitted to the hospital near where we lived, a 4-hour drive away. Cue him phoning about 10 car rental places the Saturday before Christmas no less to have a car delivered to them at the hospital so they could leave immediately, whilst speaking to the hotel to have their bags packed up. He then delivered them to us and waited for us to finish dinner and toast the happy couple before driving us to the train station himself and booking us train tickets back home, even slipping us a tenner from his own pocket for the taxi to our house at the other end. The whole time he was keeping up to date with my parents so he could update my step-sister from worrying too much. I can only imagine how out her mind with worry she would have been without him telling her he was okay. Gramps ended up being just fine, and even jokes that it was the only way of getting out of giving a speech. The whole situation was dealt with such professionalism and care, and made what could have been a nightmare so much less stressful that he went on to plan several other family and friends' weddings on the back of that story alone.